Tokenization has been one of the biggest topics that I have talked about over the last year or so because, again, we are hearing from some of the biggest names around finance, from banks to institutional players, organizations, global organizations around the banking sector like the BIS, even the IMF. They have been telling us that tokenization is the future. Everything is going to be tokenized. Even BlackRock's Larry Fang told us every single financial asset will be tokenized. And more recently, if we're looking at some of the articles going back to even just September, we didn't hear from Clearstream saying, hey, we are looking at this roadmap and it's a 20 trillion euro roadmap, and it's starting with digitized euro bonds, 20 trillion euros. Deutsche Börse, Clearstream and Euroclear have collaborated on a data standard to digitize the 14 trillion euro bond market, targeting digital issuance from Q1 of 2026. It feels as if 2026 is going to be the start for a lot of these major tokenization moves, which I'm very excited about because, again, if we're looking at a lot of the assets that are on Clearstream's platform, it's 20 trillion euros. This is just from one name, by the way. Like, it's kind of crazy to think about how much value is out there in the world when we look at crypto and we think like, oh hey, a $3 trillion market cap for crypto is pretty significant, right? But it's barely scratching the surface of how much money is out there. That's why when we look at these names that have this massive roadmap for, tokenization efforts, and it's in the tens of trillions of dollars, I keep saying like, listen, we are seriously just in the beginning phase of what's to come for crypto, especially for utility-based projects. Now, QNT is in a very interesting position because, again, of what Quant is offering, it's a big deal for tokenization itself. Now, we'll get to that here in a moment, but if we're looking at all the values here, going back to February of this year, we did hear from Security Token Market, which forecasted a $30 trillion, value in asset tokenization by 2030. This is led by stocks, real estate bonds, and gold. And then more recently, we did hear from BCG and Ripple. They predicted an $18.9 trillion market by 2033. Obviously, these numbers are going to change over time. And even right now, if we're looking at the space for tokenization, like the full-on push here, because this is outside of just like public networks, we also have other platforms here as well. Platforms that we can't really invest into, but the total RWAs on chain value is about almost $36 billion. It's not a massive amount of money compared to, the overall predictions here, but it is a very big start. And even when it comes to public blockchains, we're at about like $18.13 billion. It's, again, a big push, but we're still just scratching the surface. Even when it comes to some of these areas like stocks, public stocks that are tokenized, we're only at about $600 million. This is a market that's valued in tens of trillions of dollars, and we're not even at $1 billion yet for tokenized stocks. So it just kind of goes to show you how much larger the view here is for this space. We're very early still. Now, talking about stocks, we did hear recently from Robinhood CEO Vlad Tenev, where he did say that RWA tokenization is an unstoppable freight train, and eventually it'll reshape the entire global financial system. The future is tokenized. Check this out. Tokenization of private companies is still quite early, so what we demonstrated in Europe is that the technology works, and we did it in the form of a giveaway to customers. But what hasn't been unlocked yet is real-time 24/7 trading. And I think there's a lot of things that we still have to figure out, not just with regulators, but also with these companies, because they rightly do have some concerns. It's a new thing. Not all of them like their stocks being traded in real time 24/7, and I think that we're going to get to a point, I think in the next probably 5 to 10 years, where it is ubiquitous. I mentioned in my talk that tokenization is a freight train, it can't be stopped, and I think eventually it'll eat the whole global financial system. But it's going to take time for everyone to be comfortable with it, so that's why we're pursuing multiple angles. We did want to be the first to tokenize OpenAI and SpaceX, and I don't know if there will be Guinness Book of World Records for that one, but there should be. But what we're doing now is we're working very closely with companies and making sure that they welcome the tokenization, they see real benefits for themselves and their customers. And we're also giving exposure to private companies through other means of the US as well. For example, Robinhood Ventures, which we announced about a week ago. So Robinhood is definitely going to be a leader in private markets. The exact mechanics might be different in the future than they are today, but I think what's clear is customers want it. It's going to be a big market, and I think we'll be at the frontier. Now, what's crazy about this video clip is that this is the CEO of Robinhood, one of the largest user-facing, like we're talking about retail user-facing applications for trading stocks, and he is talking about reshaping the entire global financial system with tokenization and how tokenization is going to affect, everything in the next decade. Again, over the next couple of years, we are going to see many more big names like Robinhood jumping in on tokenization. Nasdaq, even once it's happened to tokenization, Nasdaq was recently at Ripple Swell, talking about how tokenization can, change the, day-to-day trading hours, how we can get to 24/5 and eventually 24/7. We've been hearing from banks like Citi, JP Morgan, you name it, all talking about tokenization. This is no longer a game of speculation, it's happening now. Even if we look at the news articles from our way.xyz and just go down the list here. I mean, in the last 24 hours, we have been seeing so many big announcements regarding tokenization moves, or, even just digital asset moves. And again, a lot of this, yeah, sure, it's coming from like smaller names, but then you also see some very significant big names from major central banks, major banks themselves, asset management companies. It's just crazy to see the sea change here. And again, when it comes back to Quant, how big is this for Quant? Well, it's huge. In fact, Quant Network recently put out a great article, and it says as tokenized assets scale, post-trade infrastructure remains fragmented. QuantNet orchestrates assets and money across distributed ledgers. Traditional systems, no infrastructure replacement, no custody risk. The future of post-trade is programmable. Now here we have from November 18th, and let me just kind of zoom out just to make sure that this is at a good area. So it seems as though it didn't change anyways. It's all right. But anyways, we have bridging tokenized markets, the missing layer in post-trade orchestration. So as tokenized assets gain momentum, one question is emerging across capital markets. How will post-trade infrastructure adapt? Banks, custodians, and FMIs are exploring new models for digital bonds, tokenized deposits, and programmable settlement. Yet while issuance and trading platforms have evolved rapidly, the post-trade layer remains fragmented, spanning multiple distributed ledgers, settlement systems, and liquidity silos. Reconciliation, once a back-office routine, has become a multi-ledger challenge. Each network operates in isolation, holding its own version of truth. The result is duplication, delayed settlement, and capital inefficiency that erodes the benefits of tokenization itself. To make tokenized post-trade a commercial reality, institutions need more than distributed ledgers. They need a unifying layer of orchestration, one that connects tokenized assets and tokenized money without replacing existing systems or introducing custody risk. This is where QuantNet comes in. Again, if we are thinking about the XRP ledger,